To set up your AutoBatch version 3.2.1 system, the first step will be to set up each device in your system. Prior to doing that, I want to review a couple general items about the setup of your touch screen. As in all KSi automation systems, the system is controlled primarily through use of a touch screen. With AutoBatch version 3.2.1 and AutoTreat version 3.2.1, certain functions are also able to be done through the database. This training video will review both methods on screen and through the database and setting up some of your system devices when applicable. On your touch screen, the general layout is as follows. On top you have a system bar that allows access to different sets of menus. Whatever menu is activated, or whatever subset of menus is activated, you will see a button on the top menu bar that is green in color. Presently we're on the home screen. If I touch the screen menu button, you will see a sub-menu or a sub-bar appear underneath the main screen menu bar. As you see on the screen menu, you can navigate to a variety of different screens. A tank fill screen, your tanks 1 through 12 screens, your scale screen, your treater screen, and your loadout screen. In AutoBatch version 3.2.1, all orders are operated and run from the home screen, where you can access your customer database, your order database, and your recipe database if your system is AutoTreat in controlling the treater. There's also a support menu, which gives you access to various quick guides that are on board with your system, as well as contact information for KSi Automation for support and troubleshooting. There's a KSi menu, which is utilized typically by your KSi Automation tech or during a support call. A system pause menu that will pause the entire system. You see it flashing. I took that pause off at this point. And then a system status menu, which shows an overview of the status of the entire system, whether it be the scaling portion of the system, the tanks and seed source portion of the system, or the treating portion of the system that is applicable with AutoTreat. I'm going to touch the back button, and that's going to take me back to my previous screen, which was my home screen. We'll move now into device setup. To access any of your devices, you'll navigate to the screen menu and its subset of menus, and all devices then can be accessed through the various individual screens as shown as on the sub-menu bar. I'm going to start out by going to the loadout screen. The loadout screen is the button over on the left-hand or the right-hand side of your sub-menu bar. By touching that, I can access the components that are involved with the loadout portion of your system. In AutoBatch version 3.2.1, all device settings are accessed by touching the actual device you want to change system settings on. In this case, you would touch your loadout conveyor that's labeled as M105. By touching that device, you see a pop-up menu that indicates MTR 105 setup. That stands for Motor 105 setup. I'm going to go ahead and touch exit. Each of the conveyors or devices in the system are labeled with an M105 or a number. Could be M102, M520 in this case for a seed wheel motor, M105 for a loadout conveyor. I'm going to touch the scale screen and show you an example of one of our knife gates or air gates labeled as KG290. By touching any one of these buttons labeled in such a manner, the user gains access in AutoBatch version 3.2.1 to the hand-off auto screen for each of those devices. This is where an operator can manually start a conveyor by touching the hand button. You'll see the lights on the conveyor illuminate, indicating the direction the belt is traveling, as well as that the motor is on the system. As you can see, as I move the handoff auto screen away from the Motor 105 button, When the device is in hand, you see an orange bar by the hand button on the motor HOA screen. You also can see an outline of the motor button is that same color. That's a visual indication that the motor is set in the hand mode or on. If we touch the off button, the conveyor turns off. That's indicated by the green lights on the conveyor turning off. You'll also see a red box around the motor button indicating the device is set to off, and that corresponds with the red highlights by the button on the HOA screen. If we set the button in auto, the system now has control of this motor or this device. That means the system can turn it on and off as is required by the sequence of operations. Also on most of your HOA screens, you'll see a reset button. If the motor trips out or is not operating for some reason, typically you will see a red and white flashing box around the button or at the device. To reset that motor, you would come into the HOA screen and touch the reset button. On motors that have variable speed control, you'll also see this slider bar on the HOA box. This box can be moved up and down to control the speed from 0 to 100% of that motor. That's only available on devices that are equipped with variable speed control, which is system specific and device specific depending on configuration of your system. This speed control only impacts the operation of the conveyor when the conveyor is on or in hand. To get out of the screen, you go ahead and touch the exit button. We'll now go into the device setup for this specific device or this conveyor. To access the settings for that individual device, we can simply touch that conveyor or that device, and we see our MTR 105 setup screen. I'm going to move that screen over to the center of or away from the actual device. This is done by touching on the top title bar of that pop-up box and sliding it over on your screen. This box contains several parameters specific to this device. With the conveyor, you have an option to touch the I or information button by each of the boxes shown on your pop-up. If you touch that I, you will see a description of what that setting or that parameter pertains to within the system. As you can see, the conveyor start delay time is related to delaying the starting for a certain amount of time in seconds when the conveyor or device is automatically started by the system. If no delay is desired, it should be set to 0. So as an example of what this parameter impacts within the system, if there is a time set on this device, let's say we set it for 5 seconds, that's done by touching on the yellow box. That brings up a numeric entry keypad, and we can input a period of 5 seconds. We press enter, and that inputs the information into the system. What this 5-second delay will do in operation of the system is when the system knows that it's time to turn on this loadout conveyor, this specific device, it will delay the start time for a period of 5 seconds. As an example of how this may be used in your system, let's theorize that you start treating a seed order, and you know that it will be approximately 10 seconds before or 5 seconds before seed travels through the drum of your seed treater and begins discharging into your conveyor. You could set the delay to start time to 5 seconds so the conveyor doesn't turn on before seed is actually discharging into that conveyor. With this particular device, we would advise leaving it at 0. So it starts upon startup of the seed treater. The conveyor stop delay time is similar in nature, although it controls when the conveyor stops after receiving a stop signal from the system. For example, if you want the conveyor to run for a period of time after it no longer is needed by the system, you can add time to this timer. Global motor fault time is set at 3 seconds. This is a global setting that, if changed here, will affect each of the conveyors in the system. If you add time or take away time from this particular parameter, this impacts how the system responds to a conveyor or a motor not starting when asked to start. So, for example, if motor 105 is asked to start by the system in its normal sequence of operations, the system looks for a return signal from that motor that the motor is actually running. If that signal is not received within 3 seconds, the system will go into fault mode, will alarm the operator, and begin a shutdown sequence. This is a safety measure added to all automation systems to allow or to protect the system from putting seed or putting material where it's not able to be conveyed from. For example, if a motor doesn't turn on, we don't want the system to provide seed to that location, as will cause system stoppages or cause seed to spill or something to that nature. The final box on the motor, on the conveyor setup, is the M105 alert. This has to do with a maintenance feature of the system. If you so choose, you can set this to a certain amount of time, and once this device is run for that amount of time, the system will alert you and say that it is time to perform maintenance or to check this certain device. So if you want to check your conveyors after 20 hours of running, you would, or a specific device after 20 hours of running and perform service or maintenance on that certain device, we would put 20, press enter, and after 20 hours of operating time, the system will notify you that it's time to perform maintenance or time to check that specific device. If you want to reset that time that this conveyor is run to 0, one can push the reset button, and that would reset any accumulated time in that time accumulator to 0. This setup procedure is common to all conveyors throughout the system. We won't go through each conveyor here, but each conveyor is very similar to the settings that you have available to it. We'll touch exit to move away from that screen. The next item we will look at the setup screen for is from our scale screen. We'll look at the knife gate in this case. The knife gate HOA, I'll show that to you briefly. It's a little simpler than the other handoff auto screen we looked at with the conveyor. It simply has an open, close, and auto setting, and again operates very similarly to the on and off functions of the conveyor. We'll exit out of that by touching the exit button. We'll click on the device to bring up the device settings. You see the knife gate 290 setup screen has appeared on your screen. There's two items on this settings screen. The first is the air pressure fault time. All of the air gates, or all of the sliding gates, the control gates in KSi automated systems typically use compressed air. And this air pressure, there's a certain air pressure required to operate these gates effectively and efficiently. If the air pressure in the system falls below that minimum setting for a 10-second period of time as set presently with this device, the system will alarm, and the alarm light on the control panel will flash, and a message will pop up on your home screen indicating that you need to check your air pressure in the system. If the fault does occur, the system will go into shutdown mode to prevent spilling of any of the product or seed from the system. The knife gate alert timer is very similar to the alert timer that we talked about on the previous device, the conveyor. I'll show you what the information indicates on this particular device. It says this parameter sets a future point in the cycle counter that will trigger a maintenance reminder for this device. So again, this is a maintenance-related setting. Once this knife gate has cycled for a certain number of times, that alert will pop up on your screen. Let's say we would want to set the alert at alert you to go check that knife gate after this knife gate is operated or cycled 5 times. Would recommend setting that not at 5, as you'll get an alarm quite often, and it's not needed to check the knife gate that often. Again, we have the reset button that can reset the actual cycles. If we touch reset, we need to press and hold that button for a certain amount of time. For this particular device, that time period is 10 seconds. As you can see, we've reset the device to 0 cycles. Once done with the device settings on the knife gate or the air gates, we'll exit out of those. We're going to go to the scale screen next and click on the scale. As you see, the Configure Scale Cycle pop-up comes up. I want to talk a little bit about this pop-up and describe the different components. The setup screen is configured in such a way to walk an operator through a typical cycle, typical scale cycle. As you can see, we've got the charge portion of the cycle where the scale is charging. We've got the fill portion of the cycle, the cleanout portion of the cycle, and the discharge, the scale discharge portion of the cycle. Charge indicates filling the conveyors leading up to the scale with seed. Fill indicates the time when seed is being discharged onto the scale from the conveyor system filling the scale. And the cleanout portion indicates the time for the conveyor system that feeds the scale to clean out or empty all the seed off of the belts leading to the scale. That all takes place in what somebody could define as the scale filling cycle, as indicated up in your upper right left-hand corner of your screen, of your pop-up screen. The last portion of the cycle is the discharge cycle. This is when seed is discharged from the scale. Each of the portions of the cycle are described in the text box down near the bottom of the pop-up. You'll see different colored text on the screen in front of you now. Part of it's in green, part of it's in red. The parts in green are the parts that are active during that particular portion of the cycle. So for example, during the charge portion of the scale filling cycle, the tank gate will open. That means the bin gate or the seed source gate and your fill conveyors will be in operation. The scale gate will be closed and the discharge conveyor will be off. During the fill portion, the same devices will be in operation. During the cleanout portion, as you see, the tank gate will close and the fill conveyors will remain on for a period of time until the cleanout cycle is complete. During the discharge portion, is open and the discharge conveyor or discharge device is on. During the charge portion, parameters that are accessed from this screen, the parameters that are affected here are configured from the seed source setup screen. During the fill portion, you have 2 parameters you can change. One is the scale capacity. That parameter is impacted or can be changed by touching the text box or the numeric entry box. Numeric entry pop-up comes up and you can adjust the capacity of your scale at this point. This parameter is set by your KSi Automation technician during startup of your system and can be changed depending on the capacity of the scale that you have in your system. This particular scale is set up for a 10,000 pound capacity limit. This will prevent the system from putting any more than 10,000 pounds of seed onto the scale. The second parameter you see here below the scale batch capacity is the batch fill time. Indicates the batch must fill in 500 seconds. This relates to a timer that the system watches while the scale is filling. If the scale doesn't fill in that amount of time, the system will alarm and shut down. This prevents conveyors from running indefinitely. If something happens to the operator walks away from the system or gets involved in the conversation or takes a phone call. And if that should happen and the operator is not watching the system, expecting the scale to fill and the conveyors to shut off, but perhaps a seed source will run out of seed. Perhaps we empty one of our tanks that we're discharging seed from. This keeps the conveyors from running indefinitely. If the scale does not reach its required weight in that amount of time, the system will shut down. This time can be adjusted by the operator and is typically set by the KSi Automation technician that does the startup at your site. Systems with fewer bins, let's say 2 to 3 bins, this timer may be lower than what you see on the screen. System with more bins, say 8 to 12 bins, the timer may be set longer. The third portion of the scale filling cycle is the cleanout cycle. See, there's no parameters to set from this screen. You see a current scale cleanout time set at 45 seconds. This parameter can be impacted or changed from the bin screen or the tank screen, but it is a parameter that is automatically set by the system as you run orders from specific seed sources. The final part of configuring the scale cycle is the scale discharge portion of the cycle. Here we have 3 parameters that we can set. The first one being the scale empty tolerance. Most scales in KSi automated systems are set at 5-pound weighing increments. So this parameter, the scale empty tolerance, is set at 5 pounds. For example, if the scale weight is showing 5 pounds or less and the scale is no longer discharging seed, the system will assume that the scale is empty. The second parameter you see on your screen is the scale empty time. The scale empty time also is related to the scale empty tolerance. The scale must show 5 pounds or less as far as a scale reading for a period of 5 seconds for the system to consider it empty. If those 2 conditions are achieved, the system will assume the scale is empty and go into its shutdown cycle. The final parameter is turning the discharge conveyor off after timer. This comes into play when there is a conveyor that goes from your scale to your treating device in your system. The scale will remain on for 20 seconds after the scale has reached its empty point or been empty, 5 pounds or less, for 5 seconds. The discharge conveyor will continue to run for 20 seconds after that to complete a cleanout time and to make sure all seed has been discharged from the conveyor into the treating device. The final parameter we'll talk about on this configuration screen is the order complete tolerance. This amount impacts when the system knows that an order is complete. If there's a problem, such as a bin running out before an order is complete in the system. So for example, if you are running an order of 10,000 pounds from bin 4 in your system, and bin 4 runs out at 9,950 pounds, the system will go ahead and consider that order to be complete because it's 50 pounds from its target, and your order complete tolerance is set at 75 pounds. This is, again, a protection against not allowing a system to complete an order if logic indicates that the order should be completed, such as only needing a few more pounds of seed and not having achieved that total scale weight. Again, all parameters, you can gain information about what those parameters are by touching the information button beside that specific parameter. At this point, we're going to go ahead and exit out of the scale configuration cycle page. So from our screen menu, we'll touch our KSi menu. You see it becomes highlighted, and we have 2 options under the KSi menu. One is the alarm log, and one is the system setup menu. We'll touch the system setup, and that brings up several items that are used rarely in your system, but an operator should know what they are and know where they are. This is where the time and date of the system can be set, where serial number information is located in case your KSi Automation technician requests that information during the support call. Also some parameters related to auto treat that we'll talk about in a later section of this training. The main area we want to talk about here is the column of information over here on the right-hand side of your screen, this is where the system indicates what mode you have your system set in presently to deliver or define an order of seed in what unit. So presently you see the amount equals pounds is highlighted in green. That indicates that the operation or the operator has set up the system to run orders of seed in pound definition, or by, for example, if you want 50 units of 2,800 pound seed, you would call for 2,500 pounds of seed. As you likely know, with AutoBatch version 3.2.1, and in actuality, since AutoBatch version 2.0 systems, we have given the operators, or KSi has given operators, capabilities of delivering orders of seed in pounds, in units, where a unit is defined by a pound or a unit weight. As you see here, that unit weight is defined as 50 pounds. This can be adjusted from 50 pounds to something else. So if I touch on the 50 pounds unit box, I can adjust that unit size to 48 pounds per unit. I also have a minimum order amount of 5 units, so the system will not accept an order for less than 5 units when it's defined in this particular unit size. I'm going to go ahead and touch that and redefine that as 50 pounds per unit. The third mode, and an increasingly popular mode of delivering seed orders, is in units defined by seed count. As you can see here, we have a unit size set at 140,000 seeds per unit. Again, a minimum order amount of 5 units per order. And again, these can be adjusted, these parameters can be adjusted as needed by the operator of the system. You do not select what mode you want the system to operate in from this screen. This simply indicates where or what the system is presently set in, and if you select this mode from your order entry screen, then the system will behave according to how you have that particular mode set. So if you need to change your unit size, you would come to this screen. However, if you want to deliver an order by seed count units, that parameter is selected on an order-by-order basis and selected from our home screen. The next area we'll talk about with system setup is our seed sources. So we need to go to our seed sources. That's accessed from our screen menu. Screen menu, if we touch that button, we bring up the submenu of tanks 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, as well as other menus we can access. We're going to touch the tank 1 through 4 button. That brings up our first 4 tanks of our system. Once again, these parameters can be accessed and changed by touching the actual device, but can also be accessed from our KSi Auto database. And we're going to go through both methods of changing those in this training portion. We're going to first address how to change this from the database. Before I go to that, I want to talk a little bit about the online and offline features of our tank settings. If the database is hooked up to the automated panel or the automation panel, you will see an indication that the KSi Auto data is online. If I touch up in this light area up above the actual tank graphic, which I'm doing now, you'll see the tank 2 just went offline. I've selected that tank and chosen to take it offline. That's indicated by a light pink or red area surrounding the upper portion of that tank, as opposed to the other 3 tanks on this page showing that they are online with the KSi Auto Data database. Another area I'll point out is this box up above the specific tank. Right now you see a green arrow pointing from left to right as you look at the screen. What this indicates is that data, when the system is taken back on or is put back online, when this tank is put back online, any data that is changed will flow from the screen or your automation panel to the KSi Autodata database. If I touch that button or touch that arrow, you'll see it change. So now when I take this tank back online, the information that's in the database will be uploaded automatically to the tank in question. I'm going to switch over now to our KSi Autodata screen. We have that up and running on this system, so you can see how things can be changed there and impacted. The KSi Autodata version 3.2 system is a web-based system. It's accessible from any web browser that you have on your network, on any computer that you have in your network, as long as that Autodata system or Autodata computer provided with your KSi AutoBatch or AutoTreat version 3.2 or 3.2.1 system is on that same network. We're going to talk here specifically about setting up seed sources. And to do that, we want to navigate on this upper row to the Seed Data button. We touch that Seed Data button or activate that with our mouse, and that takes us to a drop-down menu. We can set different parameters within the Seed Data. Within the Seed Data submenu, we can set the seed supplier brand, the seed supplier, seed kind, could be a different commodity than soybeans potentially, seed lot, seed variety, and seed source. The last in the area we're going to focus on specifically is the seed source. Seed supplier or seed brand, those two parameters are not required for operation of the system. They can be defined or they can be left blank. Seed kind, again, should be defined. Seed variety and seed lot, those are both required parameters. I'm going to go ahead and select the seed variety and go to an Add Seed Variety screen. When I touch that, the screen will update and open up an input window to add a seed variety. I'm going to add a seed variety called Variety XX. I'm going to select the brand for my drop-down and indicate that it's not applicable. A username needs to be selected as well. This is a database feature that causes you to have a record of what operator has changed or edited records within the database. Seed supplier, we're going to select test company, and seed kind, we're going to select soybeans. And we're going to hit save and new to save that information. Now we can add another seed variety. In this case, I'm going to cancel out of that because I don't want to add another variety. Seed lot information is also required, so I'm going to go ahead and touch my seed data button again and edit a seed lot. I'm going to add a seed lot in this case. The system refreshes. We can add seed lot data. I'm not going to add any in this particular example, but these are different parameters. You can add seed lot number, a shipment number if that applies to your specific order, seed count per scale unit, and also your username again. I'll go ahead and cancel out of that, and we'll go ahead and edit a seed source or add a seed source. So to edit, I want to click on my seed source screen. That will bring up all my seed sources. As you see, with this, with our database system, we have tanks 1 through 10 defined. We have information already input into the into this AutoData database, and all this information is accessible from our AutoData system, or from our touchscreen and our seed system. We're going to go ahead and edit our tank number 2. I do that by clicking on my Edit Record button over on the left-hand side of the system. Edit Record screen comes up. We're going to call seed source From tank 2, we're going to call it variety XY. We're going to change the amount to 450,000 pounds. We're going to set the seed wheel calibration factor at 1, leave all these things the same. Seed source location is going to not be included in this case. Our seed source capacity, this field indicates the capacity that the bin can hold. So this bin is set to hold 500,000 pounds of seed. We're turning on seed wheel adjust. I'm going to click those and turn those both off for right now, and we're setting a seed cleanout time. So all these parameters can be set from the database. Once I'm finished editing this data, I'm going to go ahead and come down to the Save button and click Save. And I'm going to also now switch back over to our touch screen and show you what happens when we bring this auto data system back online for tank 2. We've edited tank 2 to call it something different. We've changed the fill amount from 200 and some thousand pounds or 180,000 pounds to 450,000 pounds, and we've changed a couple other settings. So as we switch back over to our touch screen, we see that our database is our tank 2 is offline with the database. We see that we have information set to come from the database to our touch screen. So when I take the tank back online, we're going to see some parameters be updated. We're going to see these two lights go off because I changed the setting there. We're going to see the tank fill amount change from 182,490 pounds to 450,000 pounds. That's also going to impact the graphic that shows the bin fill amount over here on the left side of the bin. So I'm going to go ahead and touch the auto data offline area to bring it back online as we edit it in the database. Now you see the tank fill amount at 450,000 pounds. You see that the tank has the graphical indication of the amount of seed in the tank has changed, and you see the two lights have been turned off because of settings that I impacted in the database. Seed sources can also be set up from the touch screen. This next process is going to demonstrate that. As I touch the seed source or the tank, I have a security code box come up. Most of you that have run these systems before have probably come across or have come across a security code enter box. As with all KSi systems, the KSi factory set code is 777. This can be changed if so desired, but we would recommend leaving it at 777. The security code box is on the system for a couple reasons. One, to protect system critical data from being changed without the operator's knowledge. Also to protect you from accidentally changing parameters when you don't want to. So this is basically a second question saying, do you really want to change the parameters you're about to change? We do in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and touch 777, press enter, and the tank setup parameters pop-up screen comes up. I'm going to move it out of the way of the tank 1 so we can see tank 1 while we do some editing here. Again, we have all the parameters we can change on the database are able to be changed here. Before we change this, I'm going to jump back over to my database screen and show a few things here. As you see on tank 1, we have a seed source amount of 129,599 pounds, total capacity of 150,000 pounds. Seed wheel adjust is off. Seed pre-act adjust is off. There are no parameters set for the pre-act. You see the seed lot and seed variety name is test seed number 1. And the variety is ABCXXX1. Seed size is 3,200 pounds. We're going to change some of these parameters. We want to take note of them here because they will be changed on the database once we update them on our touch screen. Navigate back to our touch screen, and we'll go through and change each of these parameters at this time. The first parameter listed on your tank setup screen is your tank seed variety. By touching on the yellow box, we have a numeric entry pad comes up. We're going to call this variety space XX. It's very critical to remember what name you name the seed source on this page, because that variety name is very critical to to correspond with an order that you set up later when you're ready to run orders out of your system. If there are any text differences between the seed you asked for from your order and from your seed variety that you've named each of your seed sources, the system will not allow seed to automatically be discharged from that seed source. As you see, the seed variety name has changed on the bin graphic as well as on this page. We're going to change the seed tank lot ID. We're going to call that lot 555. Touching enter inputs the information into the system. Our tank 1 seeds per pound, this is an indicator of seed size, and this information is typically available to the user from the production plant when seed is delivered. We're going to change that to 2,800 seeds per pound. You see I made a typo and put 28,000. I simply hit clear and re-enter the correct data. The next two parameters are the tank 1 fill amount and the tank 1 capacity. I want to change the tank capacity to 200,000 pounds. Once we touch enter, immediately you saw the bin graphic change, the fill graphic change over here on your right-hand side of your screen. Now I'm going to change the fill amount from 129,000 pounds to 175,000 pounds. Once we touch enter, you see the graphic change, you see the tank amount change as well. Finally, I want to turn on, I'm going to leave the auto adjust buttons off at this time and quickly address the discharge rate and the discharge cleanout in seconds. These two parameters will be set after you run the system for the first time. It'll time how long it takes to discharge a certain amount of seed when we run our pre-act or our auto set procedure on this tank, and also will calculate a time that it takes to clean out the conveyors that lead from the seed source to the scaling system in your automated seed treating and delivery system. At this point, I'm going to hit exit. Information for the tank 1 setup is now input into the database as it's saved. As we switch back over to our database, we're going to see the impact of those changes. If we refresh our screen, the screen will look at the database and update with current information. As you see, the seed amount on tank 1 is now 175,000 pounds. Seed source capacity is 200,000. Our lot information has changed to lot 555 with 2,800 pounds of seed, or 2,800 seeds per pound, and the variety has changed to variety XX. That concludes the seed source setup. As with our seed sources, the customer setup can be done from the KSi Auto Data database as well as from the touchscreen. I'm going to demonstrate how to do it from the database first. A feature of our KSi Auto Data system is that all orders can be, or all customers can be uploaded automatically if you so desire. Information about how to do that is in your KSi Auto Treat and Auto Batch manual that you've received with your system. So we won't spend much time on it here, but suffice to say that if you desire, you can download customer lists from any data source into a CSV or Excel file, and that can be then uploaded into the system. To set up customers from your KSi Auto Data database, we'll navigate to the customers area of the system. click on customers, you can see that the screen is now changed to show our customer list. As you can see, we already have several customers input into the data system or the database presently. From the screen, we can search for a customer. So, for example, if I want to search for customer Dominic and press enter or go, the system will return the two customers that have Dominic in their name. Navigate back to the entire customer list. This is where I can add a new customer. I'm going to go through the procedure to do that. We do that by touching the Add button. It brings up an input window. We have several fields we can define a customer by. One is the operation. I'm going to use Smith Farms in this case. First name of the customer is Joe. Last name is going to be Smith. His address is going to be 555 Texas Avenue. We won't have an address to line. His city will be nowhere. State, we'll say Kansas. Zip code is going to be 56565. His country will be United States, if we can get there. You also can put in a phone number, 555-555-5555. We won't put a business phone. You can put the customer's email if you so select, and you also need to put the username. We'll select KSi AutoTreat Operator. You can also fill out comments and date for the customer record. Once you've completed that, we can save or save in new. If you press Save in New, you're going to have another customer entry, a blank customer entry form come up. So in this case, we're simply going to hit Save. And you see that down at the bottom of our screen, Smith Farms, Joe Smith, and Nowhere, Kansas has been added to your customer database. You can also do the same operation from the touch screen. To do this, we go to our home screen and touch Manage Customer. That brings up the customer entry window. From here, we can do the same operation as we just did. I'm going to go ahead and show how that's done. We'll call this Joe Smith 2 to differentiate. The city will be, the first name will be Joe. Last name will be Smith 2. We'll change the address to 200 space Ave or Avenue. We'll leave the city blank. We'll put a country of United States, which I messed up. So we simply backspace, and we'll leave it as U.S. Zip code can be changed as well, and the numeric keypad, we'll enter it as 5555. We'll leave the phone number the same. And to update, we want to press Save As. This is going to create a new record in the customer database. If we press Save, it's going to write over customer number 1. If we hit Save As, we'll update it. I'm going to hit Save in this. I'm going to confirm it and say I want to save those changes. This saves the information back to the database. We'll then navigate back to our database, and customer 1 is going to change once we refresh our screen. Customer 1 is now Operation Joe Smith 2. Name is Joe, last name is Smith 2, etc. Navigate, we'll go back to our touch screen. Once we've updated the system, we can hit check mark, and that removes the pop-up from our screen. We can also do a search for customers if we want to from this screen. We'll get to that part later when we set up an order. And finally, the last portion of preparing to set up our system to run orders is to set up pickup orders. Pickup orders are defined as an order that is intended to be picked up by a customer. These orders can be entered in advance and be called up from the touch screen at a later time. They can be entered from the touch screen. They can also be entered from the KSi Autodata database. To enter from the database, we would go to our database screen and navigate to our pickup order screen. As with adding a customer or adding a seed source, we can add an order through an order entry form. It's very similar to adding a customer, so I'm not going to go through this in much detail. We'll simply give it a quick name, call it test order 55. Seed units ordered, we're going to say we're going to order 50 units. And our amount is going to be by seed count. We're going to select which operation. I'm going to select Joe Smith 2 as my operation. We're not auto treat in this particular demonstration. We'll select our seed source as tank 1. In our KSi AutoBatch system, we need to still select a treatment recipe even though we're not controlling the treater, and you will have a recipe within your database called no treatment, which is what you will select. Now you're ready to save that order. And that pickup order is ready to be searched for from the touchscreen and run from your KSi AutoBatch 3.2.1 touchscreen. We can also create a new order or edit an order from the touchscreen. To do so, we want to go back to our AutoBatch touchscreen. We can search for that order by order number or by order name, or we can create an order by touching Manage Order. I'm going to show you the search function here. By clicking on any one of the search fields, we bring up a text box where we can type in the order we're going to search for. Order number, I'm going to leave blank. I'm going to search by order name. And again, I want to search for test order 55. I touch enter, and I touch my search button. And the system searches the database for that order and brings up the order information and inputs it into my order screen. As you see, since we're not treating with this system, we have no treatment used. The customer is Joe Smith 2, which is the customer I set up for that particular pickup order. The amount I'm ordering is 50 seed count units. I have a seed treatment rate of 1,500 pounds. If I want to edit this order after I have called it up from the database, I can touch Manage Order, and at this point I can create a brand new order, or I can modify the existing order. I'm going to go ahead and modify this existing order. I'm going to change the amount of seed I want from 50 units to 100 units. I hit my check mark in the bottom lower right-hand corner of my Edit Order pop-up. That updates the information on my order screen. And I can simply touch Save to save this order over the old order that I had set up. I can also create a new order by touching Save As. That will create a new order in my database. In this case, I'm going to touch Save to save the order. I have a confirmation box pop up that asks me if I want to save this information. I go ahead and select Save, and the order has been updated. Additionally, I can change other items within this order, such as the customer. I can touch Manage Customer and search for a new customer name. I would do that by searching for Smith by touching Smith space Farms, which is the other customer that I set up. I want to go ahead and clear out the other fields that can be searched here. I do that simply by opening up the box, the text entry box, and hitting enter with nothing in the field of text entry. Or I can also simply touch the clear button on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. That clears all the information out. I'm going to go ahead and input Smith Farms one more time. Touch enter, and we'll touch the search function. The system searches the database for the customer with Smith Farms. As you see, the customer that I set up earlier, Joe Smith at 555 Texas Avenue in Nowhere, Kansas, is updated. And when I hit my checkbox, that information is input into the order. You see the order has been updated with the new customer. There's a red light over here beside the customer box that indicates that I need to do a save to save this new order. So I'll touch save, ask me if I want to save the changes, select yes, and the system information and the order information is updated to the database. And now you see the dashboard light has turned green, indicating that I am ready to run this particular order. The next step in setting up your AutoBatch version 3.2.1 system for running orders is to run an auto set for each tank or each bin. What running an auto set will do is set the pre-act and discharge rate on each specific seed source. To do this, we want to navigate from our screen menu to our tank 1 through 4. We're going to run our auto set on our tank 1. Do this by simply touching the device or the piece of equipment that we want to set up, as we demonstrated earlier. This brings up our security code box where we want to touch 777 and enter. Brings up our tank 1 setup parameters. I'm going to slide it over to the center of the screen, or the left-hand side of the screen, so we can see what's happening over on the tank that we're setting up. Running an auto set procedure, as we said before, is going to set the discharge rate and the pre-act for the system. The pre-act defines the amount of seed that exists in the system between the seed source and the scaling system. So in layman's terms, this is the amount of seed on your conveyor belts between whatever seed source you're calibrating and your scale. This gives the system the ability to shut the seed source air gate or the tank air gate at some amount of time or some amount of seed prior to reaching its desired seed weight on the scale. It allows the system to be very accurate in its scaling, to be able to achieve seed orders within plus or minus 5 pounds of the target weight. It doesn't matter what you choose or what mode you choose to run seed orders from your system in, whether it's pounds or units or seed count units, you still set the system by pounds when you run this auto set procedure. To run the auto set procedure, we're going to touch auto set. When we touch auto set, run auto set down in the lower left-hand corner of the setup parameters pop-up screen, we're going to have a box pop up, ask us to enter a numeric security code, which again will be 777. At that point, several things are going to happen with the system automatically. First, the underbin conveyor that conveys seed from the bins to the scale fill conveyor is going to turn on, as well as the scale fill conveyor. We'll see those indicated as we saw before when we turned on the conveyor in the setup section of this training program. We will also then see the knife gate underneath the tank 1 open and begin discharging seed. With this particular system, we have set up a scale simulator so we can simulate seed or simulate an amount of weight going onto the scale. The auto set procedure operates in 2 stages. The first stage we'll open up the scale or the tank 1 gate and discharge seed from the tank until the scale reaches an amount of 500 pounds. Once 500 pounds of seed are on the scale, the tank gate is going to shut automatically, and the conveyors will go through a 60-second cleanout period. During this time, the system will be monitoring the scale to see how long the conveyors take to clean out, as well as monitoring the system to determine the amount of seed over 500 pounds that is discharged onto the scale. That amount will become the primary or the initial pre-act number, which you will see that go into the pop-up screen that is available to you when you're running the auto set procedure. The second stage of this auto set cycle involves running another amount of seed to target 2,500 pounds of seed onto your scale. During this stage, the seed source, the knife gate or the air gate underneath the seed source will shut off some amount of seed prior to reaching the target weight of 2,500 pounds on the scale. Then this time, on the second stage, once the conveyors go through their 60-second cleanout period, we should end up with exactly 2,500 pounds of seed on the scale. If we don't, there'll be a minor adjustment to the initial pre-act, and those final numbers will be transferred into the screen that you see, the setup parameter screen you see in front of you. Once that is complete, assuming the KSi Auto database is online, that information will also be saved and transferred back to the KSi Auto database, and we will go in and look at those numbers after the auto set procedure is complete. So to begin the auto set procedure, before we begin the auto set procedure, you will want to make sure your bin gate, your manual roller gate, is open on your tank. So you will physically go out to your tank and open your bin to a set distance. Usually that's 4 to 5 inches. And if you have a new system this year, our KSi Automation technician will have told you how far open to set your roller gate, or helped you set that. If this is a second year or a third year, successive years with your system, a good place to start is where you have that particular tank set in past years. Once you open your manual gate, you're ready to run your auto set procedure. So come to your touch screen and touch Run Auto Set. As I said before, the security code box pops up. I'm going to press 777 and enter. And we see the auto set monitor pop up, display on the screen. It goes through a reset procedure. And as you see, the conveyor has turned on, indicated by the arrows on the underbin conveyor and the motor running button. The knife gate is open. And as you can see on your scale actual box here, the scale is increasing in weight. Again, once we hit 500 pounds on the scale, you see the knife gate close, and the cleanout timer begins. Again, this timer is going to run for 60 seconds to clean out for the first 500-pound run. The scale has ended up with 805 pounds of seed on the scale, so our first run pre-act number is going to be 305 pounds, which is the difference between 805 and the target of 500 pounds. The first run gate open time was 20 seconds. That number will be used to divide into 805 pounds to determine a pounds per second or amount per second rate. Following the 60-second cleanout time, the knife gate is going to open again and begin discharging seed from tank 1 with a target of 2,500 pounds on the scale. The cleanout timer is approaching 60 seconds. When it hits 60 seconds, you'll see the knife gate open on tank 1, which it has now. And we're running the second amount of seed onto the scale. You can see the scale weight is increasing. Again, we're simulating a weight on the scale with equipment we have here. The second run gate timer is increasing as we approach 2,500 pounds. During this run of seed, we're going to see the knife gate close at about 2,200 pounds, and the scale or the cleanout timer will initialize and begin counting up to 60 seconds. Now we've reached 2,200 pounds. The knife gate is closed. The scale or the cleanout timer is running. This will clean out the conveyors for 60 seconds. At the end of that time period, you will see the final pre-act, the final rate in pounds per second, and the final cleanout fields all populated with calculated values. It's quite possible that the final pre-act number will be right at 305 pounds or something near that. The final rate will be calculated in pounds per second. And the final cleanout time will be calculated and populate that field as well. As we're waiting for the cleanout timer to complete, we want to remind all the operators that you only need to run this procedure once per bin fill. So you fill a certain bin or tank once in the fall, and you run this procedure prior to running any seed orders out of that tank. You should not have to redo this procedure until you refill the bin or the tank is empty and it's refilled at the beginning of the next season. Okay, at this point the cleanout timer is complete. You see all conveyors and knife gates have shut off. We're left with 2,505 pounds of seed on our scale. That calculates the final pre-act number of 308.8 pounds. That means that there is going to be 308 pounds of seed on the conveyors between the seed source gate and the scale. So all successive orders run out of this tank or seed source. The knife gate closed 308 pounds before the scale reaches a target weight, whatever that target weight may be on that specific order. The final cleanout timer takes 18 seconds, so those conveyors will run for 18 seconds after the scale target weight has been reached, after the knife gate on the seed source is closed. That will allow plenty of time for the seed to clean out from that specific seed source. This timer is specific to each seed source. So for successive tanks that may be farther away from your scale than tank 1, that time will be greater or larger than 18 seconds. But again, it maximizes the efficiency of your system by not making the system wait an extra amount of time for conveyors to clean out for seed sources that are closer to the scale. At this point, we're complete with our auto set procedure. We're ready to hit exit. When we hit exit, the fields in the Tank 1 setup parameters box all populate. You see the pre-act number in pounds, the pounds per second rate of 38 pounds per second, and the Tank 1 cleanout time have all populated. I will take a moment as well to talk a little bit about the discharge rate. We typically would like to see a range of 20 pounds per second to 50 pounds per second as a discharge rate from each seed source. If you're within that range, you're most likely maximizing the capacity and the efficiency of your system. This number may be greater for conveyors with higher capacities, may be smaller with conveyors with lower capacities, and this is all specific to your individual configuration of your system. After we've completed the auto set procedure, the last thing we need to do before we exit from the screen is turn on the pre-act auto adjust. We do this by touching the auto adjust button by the Tank 1 pre-act. As you see, the button turns green, indicating that it is on. In an AutoBatch system, we do not need and will not use the seed wheel calibration in grams parameter, so that should be set to 0 and can be left off. What the auto adjust procedure does on a seed source or tank by tank basis is allow the system to monitor each individual order for accuracy and adjust the pre-act number depending on a new flow rate or a different flow rate coming out of that tank. As you can imagine, as there's less seed in a bin, seed will flow differently. Weather conditions may cause seed to flow faster or slower from a seed source, which could affect this discharge rate and thereby affect the pre-act number. And if the auto adjust feature is on, each order run out of a seed source is monitored. If the order is accurate, the pre-act number is left as it is presently. If the order is 5 pounds off, there will be a slight adjustment made to that pre-act number. So over the course of a bin fill, you will still be able to deliver orders just as accurately from that seed source at the beginning of the bin when it's full, as well as at the end of the bin when it's nearly empty and seed may be flowing differently. At this point, we'll hit exit. When we hit exit, we see an hourglass appear, which indicates that information is being saved to the KSi Autodata database. See, all the information that was just set is now updated. The seed pre-act is 308 pounds. You see that the light is green here beside the pre-act number. That means that the auto adjust is on. We'll go back over to our database screen, and you'll see if we go to our seed data and click seed source, our tank 1 has now been updated with a 308-pound pre-act. The seed pre-act auto adjust is on. It says yes. So all that information is now backed up and saved to the KSi Autodata database. At this point in our demonstration, we are ready to run an order from our AutoBatch version 3.2.1 system. To run an order, we need to navigate to our home screen. We touch our home screen, and the main screen is brought up in front of us. You will see there is still an order loaded called Test Order 55, which we set up in both our database and then modified from our touchscreen in the previous portion of this training video. Rather than load a new order or create a new order, we're going to go ahead and run this particular order. You will see that, or if you would choose to, when operating your system, load an additional order, you could do it the same way we did before by searching for an order by name or creating a new order through the different procedures we showed earlier. We're going to go ahead and run this order. I want to call your attention to a couple things before we do. You will note that auto treat is disabled. Since this is an auto batch system, you will always have auto treat disabled. You can enable any of these boxes or any of these options on an order by simply clicking them. Shots are disabled. Shot control is a feature that's a part of our automated systems. If you need more information on that, you can find that in your manual or by talking to your KSi Automation technician. Your auto loadout discharge is disabled as well. If this would be enabled, this would allow the loadout conveyors to automatically start when master start is pressed. The final area we want to talk about are these three boxes here. As you recall before, we selected to run this particular order in a seed count and units defined by seed count mode, and that is what is selected presently. We could switch any of those at any time. As you see, if we switch it to pounds, actually this needs to be switched from the Manage Order button, so we would have to select Manage Order to switch that. But you could select any of these options here as well. You could switch it to pounds. As you see, the pounds, the amount in pounds is now highlighted. And go back to the amount in units by seed count. Hit our checkbox. A good way to know if you're ready to run an order is if all your lights are green. If an order has already been run, you'll see a red X up here. That would require you to save this as a new order name. But at this point, we are ready to run this order. We're asking for 100 units, and the 100 units defined by seed count will require 5,000 pounds of seed on a scale because variety XX is set up as a seed source with 2,800 seeds per pound, which equates to a 50-pound unit. We already have 2,500 pounds of seed on our scale. I'm going to navigate to our scale screen and show you that. We have 2,500 pounds of seed already on our scale from our pre-act procedure. We're going to leave that there. That's okay. If you would run an order for 2,500 pounds, the scale, once you start the order, the system would look at the scale and see that it already has satisfied the requested seed amount and would not ever open a seed source or request seed from a seed source. In this case, we're going to request seed from the seed source, and we're going to run 2,500 additional pounds from tank 1. We'll move to tank 1, And you'll see that this tank fill amount is presently at 175,000 pounds of seed. At the completion of this order, you will see that amount decreased by 5,000 pounds, or whatever amount is run across the scale. We'll navigate back to our home screen, and we're ready to press Global Auto. This is a good practice to press this button prior to running any order. This automatically sets all system devices into auto. Once that is done, we're ready to press Master Start. When we touch Master Start, we're going to be asked to enable our Tank 1. So I'll go ahead and press Master Start. When I do, you'll see the AutoBatch Run Status and AutoTreat Run Status System Information bar. You'll see information come up there. These are information pieces that indicate to the operator what's happening or what's going on presently with the order cycle. I'm going to go ahead and press Master Start. And you'll see that the order has started. The order AutoBatch status now says it's running, and they're waiting for the operator to enable a bin. As soon as I touch Tank 1 and enable it, that'll turn green, and the system is now running and filling by weight. So the system is waiting and looking for 5,000 pounds of seed on the scale. Again, we're simulating weight on the scale in this case. We've adjusted the scale weight to 5,000 pounds, which you see here on your screen. At this point, the conveyors are in a clean-out period of 18 seconds. You see the timer counting up to 15, 17 seconds. Timer's completed. The conveyor shut off. The system is now ready to discharge seed. We'll navigate back to our home screen. And we're ready to discharge a complete batch. And since our scale is now ready to discharge, we need to navigate to the loadout screen because we've disabled our automatic loadout. We'll navigate to the loadout screen to turn on our loadout conveyor. In an AutoBatch system, the system also will wait to see that it has a running signal from the drum. When we hit Start Conveyor Control, the conveyor motor 105 will start, and we'll go to our scale screen. And you can see there on the scale screen that the knife gate is now opened, and in a normal system that we weren't simulating weight on the scale would already be somewhat below 5,000 pounds. We'll go ahead and simulate the seed coming off the scale and discharge down to 0. Once the scale has reached a 0 weight, the air gate, the gate underneath the scale, will close. And the system will go into its loadout timer. Once all seed has moved through the treating system and all seed is discharged and the conveyors have cleaned out, we will come to our loadout screen and press Stop on our conveyor control button. This will stop our conveyors, and we'll go back to our home screen, and you'll see that the AutoBatch is complete, the order run is complete, and the system is now asking us to please print our ticket down in the AutoBatch status system window. See the master print button is flashing from black to light gray. At this point, we are ready to print our ticket. When we press Master Print, two things happen. Saved to the database as a completed transaction or a pickup transaction. This means that the transaction is complete. You'll also see a pop-up come up that asks you if the ticket printed OK. Once you've confirmed that the ticket is printed OK, you can press Yes on your pop-up. And it shows on your screen that the saving of that order is complete. And now you'll see a couple things have happened. The order that you just ran is complete, so we have a red X over in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. So if I would want to run this order again, I would need to manage my order, change my order name to something besides Test Order 55. I'm going to change it to Test Order 56. Touch Enter. I need to confirm that by hitting the checkbox. And at this point, I need to save this as a new order by touching Save As. This will ask me if I am sure I want to create a new pickup order using the current values. I will confirm that. And this new order is now going to be saved to the database. Once the save is complete, you will see that my red X has gone away because now I have a new order. It's order number 433. The previous one was 432. And the name of it is Test Order 56. And from our KSi Auto Data database screen, we want to navigate to our Pickup Transactions section of our database by touching the Pickup Transactions section. We will do a search for Test Order 55. Touch Go, and that brings up the order transaction that we have just run. It indicates that the pickup order name was Test Order 55 for Smith Farms. It indicates the actual seed amount of 100 units. There was no treatment, and this information can all be printed to a report from the database, as well as could be printed directly as a report from the system screen or from the touch screen by touching the System Print button down here where the Master Print button was originally.